The janitor who saved a billion-dollar empire. Elena Whitmore stood at the floor-to-ceiling, windows of her corner office on the 47th floor, watching the city lights blur through her tears. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. Tomorrow morning, the board would vote to remove her as CEO of Whitmore Technologies, the company her father had built and she had transformed into a global powerhouse. The hostile takeover had been swift and brutal. Her former business partner, Marcus Chen, had orchestrated it perfectly, exploiting a single quarter of losses. During her mother's battle with cancer, when Elena's focus had wavered. Now at 42, she was about to lose everything she had worked for since graduating from MIT at 19. The irony wasn't lost on her, that she had billions in personal wealth, but couldn't save the one thing that mattered most, the company that bore her family's name. She had tried everything: legal maneuvers, emergency investors, even appealing to old allies, but Marcus had been thorough. The board meeting was at 9 a.m. By 9:30, she would be escorted out of the building. She had entered every day for 23 years. Elena pressed her forehead against the cold glass. Her perfectly tailored suit now feeling like a costume she no longer had the right to wear. It was 11 p.m., and she was alone in the building, or so she thought. The soft sound of a rolling cart made her turn. A man in his late 30s, wearing a janitor's uniform, pushed a cleaning cart into her office, then stopped abruptly when he saw her. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Ms. Whitmore. I didn't know anyone was still here. I can come back later." His voice was gentle, apologetic. "It's fine," Elena said, quickly wiping her eyes and turning back to the window. "Please, go ahead." She heard him begin working quietly, emptying the trash. The familiar sounds oddly comforting in their normalcy. She had seen him around for months, but had never really noticed him, never stopped to learn his name. He worked efficiently, respectfully giving her space. But as he was about to leave, he paused at the door. "Ms. Whitmore, I know it's not my place, but are you okay?" Something in his voice, genuine concern without pity, made her defenses crumble. She laughed bitterly. "No, actually, I'm about as far from okay as a person can be." He hesitated, then carefully set down his cleaning supplies and stepped into the office properly. "I'm Miguel," he said simply, "and I know what it's like to feel like you're losing everything that matters." Elena turned to face him fully, surprised by her own willingness to engage. "Do you?" He nodded, leaning against the doorframe. 3 years ago, my wife died in a car accident. I had a daughter who was 6 years old, a mortgage I couldn't afford on a teacher's salary, and grief so heavy I could barely breathe. I lost the house, had to pull my daughter out of her school, took this night job so I could be with her during the day. Yeah, I know what losing everything feels like. Elena felt ashamed of her self-pity. "I'm sorry. That's real loss. This is just business." "Loss is loss," Miguel said kindly. "Pain doesn't do comparisons. But can I tell you what I learned?" She nodded, suddenly desperate to hear from someone who had survived catastrophe. "I learned that what we think defines us usually doesn't. I thought I was a teacher, a homeowner, a husband. When I lost all that, I thought I'd lost myself. But my daughter, Sophia, she looked at me one morning while I was making her breakfast before my shift here, and she said, 'Daddy, you're the best dad in the whole world.' And I realized I'd been so focused on what I'd lost that I'd stopped seeing what remained, what actually mattered." He walked closer, his expression earnest. "Ms. Whitmore, I've worked in this building for 2 years. I've seen you here at midnight reviewing proposals, at dawn preparing presentations. I've emptied the trash bins filled with drafts of speeches. You rewrote a dozen times. I've watched you comfort employees who were laid off, making sure they had references and connections. I saw you personally donate 6 months' salary to fund the continuation of our health benefits when the company hit rough waters. The people here, they don't respect you because of your title. They respect you because of who you are." Elena's eyes filled with tears again. "But tomorrow I lose the company. Marcus wins. Everything my father built is still standing because of you," Miguel interrupted gently. Ms. Whitmore, I'm just a janitor, but I listen. I hear things. The employees on every floor, they're planning something. They've been working all week on a presentation for the board, documenting every innovation you've led, every life you've changed, every reason why removing you would destroy this company's soul, not just its stock price. Your assistant, Jennifer, she's been coordinating with department heads. They're all coming tomorrow, not because they have to, but because they want to fight for you. Elena stared at him, stunned. I had no idea. That's because you've been so focused on the battle at the top that you haven't seen the army at your back. Miguel smiled. My daughter taught me that when things seem darkest, that's when we discover who truly stands with us. Not because of what we can give them, but because of who we are to them. You've spent 23 years being more than a CEO to these people. Tomorrow, let them show you what that means. He picked up his cart. I should let you rest. But Ms. Whitmore, whatever happens tomorrow, remember that your worth isn't determined by a board vote. You've already changed more lives than you know, including mine. Sophia has a scholarship to a private school now because of the education fund you established 3 years ago. You saved my daughter's future, and you probably don't even remember signing that program into existence. Eleanor did remember now. An initiative to provide educational opportunities for children of all company employees, from executives to service staff. She had fought hard for that program. Thank you, Miguel, she whispered, for reminding me why I started fighting in the first place. The next morning, Elena walked into the boardroom with her head high, and Miguel was right. The room was packed with employees wearing Team Whitmore shirts, each holding documented proof of her leadership, innovation, and humanity. The presentation they delivered was so powerful, so comprehensive, that even Marcus's allies on the board shifted uncomfortably. By noon, the takeover had failed. Marcus's manipulations were exposed, and Elena was not only retained as CEO, but given a standing ovation that lasted 5 full minutes. That evening, Elena found Miguel on the 32nd floor and offered him a position in the company's new Community Outreach Division, recognizing that his insights into people and his genuine compassion were exactly what the company needed. He accepted not for the title, but for the opportunity to help others the way he had been helped. Years later, when asked about the moment that saved her company, Elena never talked about legal strategies or financial maneuvers. She talked about a janitor who saw her as a person when she had forgotten how to see herself, who reminded her that true worth is measured not in stock prices, but in lives touched and kindnesses given. Because in the end, it wasn't billions that saved Elena Whitmore. It was a single act of human compassion from someone who had every reason to focus on his own struggles, but chose instead to light a candle in someone else's darkness. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful reminders that compassion changes everything, and that sometimes the people we overlook are the very ones who hold the keys to our salvation. Together, we can spread more kindness in this world.